Again, we are assembled in His house, in His presence. Mount Olive Cumberland Presbyterian Church. Hopefully you will be blessed richly with an experience of Jesus today. I pray that for each and every one of us. Some years ago there was a song that came out, and there's a broken heart for every light on Broadway. And I've learned this lesson as a pastor in my studies and just revelation from God, to always remember that whenever people come together to worship God, that there's a broken heart in every pew. And though we cover it so well and we hide it so well, I know God always reveals to me to know that. Most of us have experienced enough battles and burdens and heartaches in our life to find ourselves at one time or another crying out, "Why, Lord? Why me? Why did this happen to me? What am I being punished for?" Those instinctive questions, because we learn to accept the fact that what we sow, many times what we reap. If we sow bad seed, we're going to reap bad seed or bad harvest. We realize that if we sow the seeds of sin and bitterness and hatred and carelessness and disobedience, eventually we'll reap that kind of harvest in our life. But what if we haven't sown those kind of seeds? And yet some tragedy enters our life. Find ourselves being burdened with things we don't understand. And sometimes we don't feel like we deserve that. Such moments we may ask, "Why, God? Why do bad things happen to me? Are you really there? Does it do any good to pray? Do you care about me?" These, along with other questions, arise when we come face to face with tragedies and trials in our life. Why do bad things happen to good people? There are some who would give you a quick and simple answer to that. But I think this needs to be looked at closely. At religions of the East, they will say you're probably in the cycle of reincarnation. You're being punished for something you did in the life before. But if you can find out which one of the thousands of gods they pray to that you angered, you may be able to appease His wrath. Muslims teach you different answers. They say Allah has willed it on your life. You have to accept His will without question and suffer greatly. Some respond to tragedy by shaking their fist saying, "God, if you allowed such things to me, I reject you, I curse you. I don't ever want to have anything to do with you," and they fall away. Maybe some of you have read that book now, it's not so new, by Rabbi Harold Kushner, Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? It became a bestseller in this country. It gives a different answer. It says, God is limited in His power. Therefore, He's not a participant in your life. Instead, He's a spectator watching. Now, He wants good things happen to you, but He can't manage to make them happen in every situation. His conclusion was God is not all power. We ought to understand that and love God anyway. To forgive God of His shortcomings. Now that's an interesting twist, isn't it? The rabbi says it's our time to forgive God. And that became a bestseller in this country. I obviously do not agree or support any statements of that nature. And I believe the Bible doesn't support any of that nonsense. The New Testament reflects the Old Testament in these words. In Revelations 15, 3 through 4, you have an insert in your bulletin. You can follow along. Great and marvelous are your works, Lord God Almighty. Just and true are your ways, King of the saints. Who shall fear you, O Lord, and glorify to your name? For you alone are holy. For all nations will come and worship before you. For your judgments have been manifested. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we look at this message, the purpose of our life, open up the truth. Guide us and direct us into your truth. To build us in your image and your likeness, so that we may grow stronger, to be better witnesses for you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
God is holy and marvelous, just and all-knowing, all-powerful. I trust you believe that also. As we look to Him, we begin to realize that we don't know it all. We're very limited. We can't always tell what is good or what is best for us. For example, what would be a good world to you if you're going to create a perfect world? What would it look like? You could give God a list of positives and negatives, things you want in this world and things you don't. What would it be on those two lists? The interesting thing about winning. No pain, I'm sure, no death, no sorrow, no handicapped children, no debt. Perfect temperature. But after you get past those basics that everybody probably would like, that's when we probably disagree. I can't imagine that I would ever agree with a guy like Osama bin Laden on what he sees the perfect world and how I would see it. Can't imagine how you would connect with Hugo Chavez and his thinking on what he would think would be a perfect world and what you would think. We just wouldn't agree on what would be best. Most of us have families and we probably try to plan vacations. You ever try to get 5 or 6 people together to go on vacation, all agree? Nobody agrees. There's a lot of arguments. There's a bunch of disagreements between what is good and what is best. A wonderful story of mine that I love in the Bible is the story of Joseph in the Old Testament. It begins in Genesis 37, goes to the end of the book. Find Joseph, he's sold into slavery by his brothers. They wanted him dead. Now that was bad. He finds himself in Egypt working as a slave. That was bad. He's falsely accused of attempting to rape his master's wife. That was bad. He's cast into prison. That was bad. Meanwhile, his father was told that he died, and so his father's grieving for him. That was bad. It was all bad in that guy's life. Until suddenly, well, years later, suddenly, Joseph finds himself in second in command of Egypt. Just like God had told him way back in the day. He was dishing out grain to the starving multitudes that have come to the land for something to eat. Listen to the words of Joseph years later as he speaks to his brothers. Genesis 50:20 is a special verse. But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. I ordered to bring it about as it is this day, to save many people's lives. Joseph was used by God. Now that's an important point. I don't really know what's best, who does know what's best? If there really are values in this world, where do they come from? Who tells us what is good and what is bad? If life is worth living, then who put value in life? Who decided that the life is worth living? If there really are answers, if there really are solutions, where do we go to find these solutions, these answers? As we heap all these questions together, we suddenly begin to realize the crucial question really isn't, why does bad things happen to me? But the real deep question is, what's the purpose of my life? Why are you here? And that question has been asked by men and women for thousands of years. So we're going to look at that. We're going to examine, what is the purpose of my life? Why am I here? Why do I get up every morning? Why do I pay my bills? Why do I go to work? Why do I care for my family? What is the purpose of my life? You see, if you can determine what your life is about, if you can decide where you want to go and suppose what's supposed to happen on the way, if you have a purpose and direction in life. But on the other hand, if you have no goals or no purpose or the compass isn't pointing in the right direction, if you don't know where you're going, then life, you may see life as meaningless, virtually meaningless. An old Roman proverb says, when the pilot does not know for what port he is headed, no wind is the right wind. But if you know where you're going, you can catch the wind in your sails, and not even storms can deter you. If you're going to give me your goal, your purpose for living this morning, what would it be? Think about it in your heart. What would it be? What is the purpose of your life? Some people would answer, well, I want to be rich and famous, have prestige. I was sharing this in Bible study this morning. I just heard a thing on Dolly Parton. Somebody said, how do you handle all the stress? She said, I've always wanted to be rich and famous, and I am now.